second talk of HitCon Hit Talk. As we all are aware, Hit Talk is a series of talks by experts in the field of healthcare and technology. And these talks are useful for healthcare professionals in personal as well as more in professional life. So we are having series of talks, mostly on every fourth Friday of the month, and this is second in a row. The next talk will be on 31st of January. So we are inviting speakers across the globe. The first speaker was from USA, and now we have got with us today one of the more expert and a well-known face among the health tech circles, Dr. Neelesh Bhandari with us. Welcome, Dr. Neelesh.
Thank you, Dr. Bagnesh. Thank you everyone
Uh,
for joining us.
Dr. Neelesh is a physician and a seasonal digital health domain expert. His expertise are particularly in driving the adoption of digital health initiatives, various solutions. He is advisor to the various tech companies, and he's an expert in advising regarding telemedicine, solutions, medical communication, again with the help of technology. Today we are going to talk on the new subject, that is digital therapeutics. We all of us are regularly, if I give you a raw example of, we always use various types of smartwatches, this mobile trackers, these and that. But what in nutshell, in seriously for practice, how is impactful, how it is going to help us. Dr. Neelesh is going to throw more light on this. So before I hand over to Dr. Neelesh, please keep connecting with us. Follow our YouTube channel, our Facebook page and all, and keep connected. And all the suggestions or any new topic or new speaker are always welcome. Dr. Neelesh, all yours now.
Thank you, Dr. Bagnesh. Thank you everyone for joining in on a Friday afternoon. Great to be speaking to all of you. My topic today is giving you an overview of digital therapeutics and how it is transforming the way doctors are approaching healthcare and how patients expect a different way in which they receive healthcare these days. So let me share my screen and I'll take you through a broad overview of how DTX or digital therapeutics is changing healthcare delivery today. So, Dr. Pragnesh, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Thank you. So, my topic is digital therapeutics, transforming modern treatment approaches. I am Dr. Neelesh Bhandari, and I've been working in the digital health field for the last 15, 20 years. Before that, I practiced as a physician for 10 years. So, let's look at the evolution of DTX. So, remember in the 70s when you must have heard of it at least, that faxes were initially used to transmit ECGs and reports from one place to another. So that was the first use of tele in healthcare. So we had telematic, we called it then when we used faxes and telephones. It got the word telemedicine in the 70s and 80s. Slowly it was evolved from just medicine to whole of health, and then we called it telehealth. In late 80s, early 90s, the word e-health became very popular amongst many professionals. We used to call it electronic health, where we used to provide healthcare via computers. Then after 2000, when the smartphones really penetrated the market, then we started using the term m-health, where we wanted to provide medical care and healthcare delivery via mobile phones. So we went from e-health to calling it m-health. Slowly we realized that it's not just mobile or it's a combination of everything, and then that's when we started calling it digital health around 2015. And that is exactly the same time when the term digital therapeutics came on, where we started trying to provide therapy using this technology, which were earlier only being used for telemedicine or just for tracking. We started combining everything. When smart devices came in and IoT came in, we started using data from these devices to provide personalized health. And that is when we came up with the term DTX or digital therapeutics around 15, 16. Became more popular around 18, 19. But that is the time period when DTX came in. I kind of got, yeah. Give me a second. Yeah, so let's check out the first definitions of what we're talking about. So we know exactly what we refer to when we say digital therapeutics. So digital therapeutics are defined as evidence-based interventions which are delivered through software applications to manage, treat, or prevent a medical condition. So it goes across the spectrum. You prevent, you manage, or you treat a disorder using software-based applications. Another important term to use when we talk about digital therapeutics is remote monitoring, because that's where you use technology to gather, analyze patient data from far. When the patient is beyond your clinic, you gather their personal data and analyze it. That is how remote monitoring is helping us forward DTX. And then you have personalized care, where you use these data points and you tailor individualized treatment plans depending on the needs of that particular patient. So these are some definitions which I would want us to keep in mind when we talk about digital therapeutics. Let's compare traditional therapeutics, what we have been doing for the past so many years, with DTX. So traditional therapeutics is when you give drugs or you perform a surgery. These focus on the biological mechanisms and often involves medications or drugs. Whereas DTX or digital therapeutics, they basically address the behavioral and lifestyle factors, and they often involve interactive software and data analysis. So it's more about the environment and the physiology of the patient, and how do you address that lifestyle factor, which is an important factor in a lot of disorders which we see today, beyond just giving a chemical or using the knife. Now, why did digital therapeutics come up in the past few years? There are some key enabling technologies because of which DTX could see this rise. We got the computer in our pockets. Mobile and web technologies evolved so far that each of us was carrying a computer in our pockets. That also helped us analyze, get more and more data, and be able to analyze that data much better. So because of these mobile handheld pocket computers, we started getting access to more data. Then over the years, we started developing wearable sensors. These sensors could help us collect more data, more real-time physiological data, which could give us more insights via real-time monitoring. To top all that, in the last 2-3 years, we have AI now, which is combining all this web technologies, data analysis, and wearable sensors data into one, and giving us personalized recommendations for each patient depending on the data provided by the patients as compared to the data of the whole population which we have gathered over the years. So these technologies have been the push for the use of digital therapeutics in normal care. Just a slide on remote patient monitoring. There are dozens of devices in the market right now. Many of them are medical grade, many of them aren't. You got smart bracelets, smart rings, you got smart belts, smart pants, smart t-shirts, smart shoes, smart watches, smartphones we have. So these all multiple sensors help us. Increasing number of variables are helping us gather a number of different patient data, vitals, temperature, blood pressure, sugar, everything, and also giving us environmental data factors, the pollution around you, the temperature around you, which also have an impact on your healthcare, which is helping us be able to analyze this personalized data much better. Yes, there is a red flag where accuracy is concerned. Many of these devices right now are around the 70 to 80% accuracy mark, but then some of them aren't. Some have gone beyond the 95% when you have devices like smart rings and CGM devices, continuous glucose monitoring devices, which have 99% accuracy, which are now presently being used in our DTX solutions. But as these other devices become smarter and more accurate, you'll have them all being used in our DTX solutions. So what are the kind of DTX interventions we are having right now? So these DTX interventions are software-based interventions which are given to patients. We have cognitive behavioral therapy. Right now, the most important pillar of DTX is the behavioral therapy, which we can give depending on the patient's requirements. It's also being used very widely in substance abuse disorders for addiction, smoking, drug addictions. DTX has shown great value. It's improved medication adherence a lot, especially in asthma and diabetes. So that's another very important place where DTX interventions are important. And lifestyle modification, where you change how the people interact with their environment, how they eat, how they sleep, how they think about their environmental interaction. So all these modifications are done via DTX. So these are some common type of and most common type of DTX interventions. Now let's look at the clinicaltrials.gov database. I wanted to see how and where DTX solutions are being studied right now and being brought to the market right now. So if you look at this slide, you will see that while there was some interest since early 2000s in how technology could be used in therapy, 15 ke baad you can see a slight hump when the term DTX, digital therapeutics, became actually more and more common. And then after 2020, you see a huge bump in all kinds of academic research within digital therapeutics, as well as commercial use of digital therapeutics. The main niches where DTX were being studied were mental, behavioral, and neurodevelopment disorders, neurocognitive disorders, mood disorders, anxiety. So a lot of neurological and neurocognitive disorders was being studied, also being brought to the market. If you see the graph on the right, where you have academic and industry interest in DTX, you'll see a lot of academic as well as industry interest in DTX in psychiatry, endocrinology, neurology, metabolism. So these are some of the disorders where a lot of work is going on in the academia as well as in the industry. So what are some of the common clinical applications and use cases of DTX? Where we're using it today would be chronic diseases, where your conditions like diabetes, heart disease, chronic pain, where a lot of solutions are there which use sensors with a smartphone and a background team and AI to help you manage your conditions. You have DTX clinical application cases in mental health for anxiety, depression, substance abuse. You have DTX solutions for rehabilitation, which are usually post surgeries or post injuries where you're at home. You have a physiotherapist looking after you, counseling you. You have sensors. We look at the flexibility and joint mobility, and that's how they help rehabilitate you. There's preventive care around diabetes, where you have early detection of health issues, and you try to promote healthy habits so as to be able to prevent diseases like diabetes or even heart disease. So these are some common clinical applications and use cases as of today. I would like to take you through a few large international companies in DTX. Many of you might have heard of these. I'll just tell you a few details of how they work. Click Therapeutics is an FDA approved digital therapy for depression. It via smartphones, it's got CBT modules, cognitive behavior therapy modules, and therapy plans personalized. What it does is teaches you coping skills and helps manage your symptoms. It tracks your mood, your sleep patterns, and your medication adherence to give you a better outcome for your depression. So this is one of the largest companies in the world, Click Therapeutics. Another huge company working in the field of diabetes is Omada Health. One of the first companies to actually provide foundational evidence for digital therapeutics is Omada Health, US based in diabetes. They have personalized health coaching. They measure your blood glucose and they provide you education and counseling depending on what your environmental factors are and what your nutritional intakes is. So Omada is another FDA approved DTX for diabetes. Propeller Health is another very, very popular company, especially in the West, where they use smart inhaler sensors to track your medication adherence, your symptom severity, and your asthma control. So this is one of the largest international platforms for respiratory conditions, and it's called Propeller Health. This is another good use of DTX. One Indian big company I wanted to bring in before is Wealthy Therapeutics, one of the earliest companies to drop into the field of DTX in India. Now they are based out of Dubai, I believe, and they started in India. They were in India for 10 years, and now recently last year, there has been some merger, and now they're working out of UAE. At least the offices are in UAE. They again work in diabetes, similarly personalized diabetes management via measuring your blood sugar levels, your medication adherence, your nutrition. So they have a CGM device. They would have the team of counselors, of diabetes educators, nutritionists to help you manage your condition much better. They have tried gamifications in their apps to make their modules more interactive and more engaging. And they're one of the best doing companies in DTX in India. Pharma companies can't be left behind. So there are many pharma companies which have now entered the market with DTX solutions. I'll name a few top ones which I have know personally. They work in DTX. Dr. Reddy's laboratory is in partnership with an international DTX company called Theranica, where they're importing their migraine therapy and rebranding it and launching it in India. So Dr. Reddy's is doing that with migraine therapy Theranica. They're also working on their own DTX solutions for India based on Indian patient data for diabetes. Lupin has already launched a flagship product called Life. It's for cardiac rehabilitation, where they work with doctors to provide DTX support for the patient of the doctors with a doctor branded app. So they have a good product called Life, which is already registered with the Indian government. It's got a C medical device license. I'll talk about more about this licensing part a little later. Cipla is working on a respiratory disease management, like we talked about with Propeller Health. Zydus is working on conditions like diabetes to create internalized versions of diabetes control and management. How do I see the future of digital therapeutics? There's expanding access. Right now, we would have around 60% to 65, 70% of people in India already using smartphones. There's an increasing penetration of people using devices and sensor smartwatches and other sensors. I've seen so many people even on the road at the gyms, at the mall with those CGM devices measuring their blood glucose every day. Smartwatches and smart rings are everywhere. So there's expanding access. There's the increase in variables and its users. And as the technology is improving, the use of and becoming more and more accurate, I believe DTX solutions will become a very, very important complementary solution which doctors will provide along with the chemicals or the knife which is used. DTX is going to be a very, very important complementary service for healthcare delivery that you could provide to your patients. Let's talk about broadly about the pros and cons of using DTX. Yes, we are seeing increasing use of these smart devices. They're becoming cheaper. Patients like them, they are used to them, they get more engaged. It improves adherence. We have seen that because you can put in smart alerts whenever there is a blip in the adherence. So obviously they do increase engagement and adherence. There's more data collection, so the treatment can be much more personalized. But what are the cons? There is always issues of data privacy and data security, data concerns about security issues and data privacy. Because when you transmit so much data over the internet, and there are multiple hubs where data is stored, there's always a chance for data to be stolen or to be leaked. So the more DTX you use, there is a potential for privacy concerns and data security issues. Presently, the integration of DTX solutions in the traditional EHRs and EMRs we have is not really very good. So that is still a con. There's this limited availability integration. But as interoperability and this government rules and regulations on standards become much more common, I think this con should come down. And there's another third and very important con is, will this make doctors and patients too dependent on technology and data and limit the human interaction? So that's another con we have got to think about, not getting overly dependent on these data products to actually provide healthcare. I remember when we were in college, we were told that if you cannot provide healthcare just with your eyes, your mind, and your fingers, then you are not really a doctor. So that could be a con over here if we get overly reliant on these technologies. Some challenges, like I already said, privacy and security of data. Not everyone has smartphones, not everybody has sensors, not everybody would have sensors in the short run at least. Integration with healthcare systems is not really great right now. And maintaining patient adherence and engagement after a period of time becomes difficult. So patients are more engaged over the initial 2 or 3 months, but as the time increases, this adherence gets lower and reduced, and we have to look at better ways to engage these people with their own health, and that is still a challenge for many of us. We all working on it. Let's talk about the regulatory landscape and approval processes for DTX. Now, right now in India, digital therapeutics is like the Wild West. Every second day, you'll find a company coming up with their own digital therapeutic solutions, or what they call digital therapeutic solutions. So still a Wild West in India, mainly because the regulatory clarity around DTX is still evolving in India. It's not very clear. While we do not have any specific guidelines for what we call digital therapeutics, right now these solutions are bracketed as software as a medical device. So you have to apply for a CDSCO license of your solution under the SAMD category. And like I said, a few of the companies that we saw, the pharma companies have already applied for and got this. I know of many other private companies in India who have already applied and got this particular license. But that is all it is. There is no FDA approval process for DTX right now in India. Once we do have FDA approval, the clinical trials are going to be long. Yes, we understand these clinical trials can go on for years. There's a lot of money involved. Approval process takes time. These are all the challenges which are more faced in the West right now because they actually go to the approval process. Since we all do not have a proper approval process in place right now in India, the max you could do is go and apply for a SAMD license under CDSO. Post-marketing surveillance, that is the real-world evidence. Once the product is out in the market, what do the patients say about it? What is the feedback you get? What is the data you collect from people who are actually using it after being prescribed? And how are the actually outcomes are being changed? That kind of surveillance has to be much more stronger even after the DTX has been approved by the FDA. So these are some approval and challenges in regulatory landscape. Still kind of loose in India. So you have to make your own mind and check a product and see if it is actually useful for your patients. So the government isn't going to help you out right now with this. Like I said, most of the solutions in DTX right now, if you see in the market, are around diabetes, a bit around heart disease, neurocognitive disorders, anxiety, depression, stuff like that. What I see coming up in DTX is a lot of solutions around oncology. I've been in talk with a few companies who are bringing in oncology-based DTX solutions in India. These are going to be mainly working post chemoradiation or post oncosurgery patients once they're home, to counsel them, educate them, to monitor their symptoms, get them back to the hospital in case of secondaries or in case of delayed healing and stuff like that. So oncology, I see a lot of solutions ready to be in the market very soon. Women's health, already in the market, I would say a lot of potential over there. This is mainly around sexual and reproductive health. There are apps which help women track their fertility and connect them back to doctors depending on their fertility periods. There's a lot of work around premenstrual syndrome where women can track their symptoms and get behavioral therapy, get counselors, get psychologists to better control their PMS symptoms. Pediatrics, mein, you already see a lot of work done in pediatrics and DTX solutions. This has mainly happened around diabetes and asthma, which we have already discussed. But you would find them also a lot entering into developmental disorders, ADHD, because a lot of these kids are also very handy with their devices. So tracking their reflexes and tracking their moods becomes much more easier in pediatric patients because you don't have to really press them to be using those devices. So these are some new horizons I see beyond the traditional diabetes and heart disease. These are the few new horizons in DTX that we see. So this was my overview of how digital therapeutics has been changing the approach of doctors in India, and how do you see technology being used in your practice? I'm sure all of you have been practicing with patients who have been using smartphones and who have come to you with questions about their own parameters or what their blood sugar is saying. So I would love to know what is your experience with these digital solutions in your practice. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pragnesh.
Thank you, Dr. Neelesh, for that extraordinary walk into the future. I can't say walk into the future, it is already a present. And as you said, there are a lot of solutions that are already in the market. See, a couple of questions. Do we have any studies or research done on the effectiveness of the interventions or suggestions that these tools give?
Yes, so let's talk about studies. Now, if you talk about Indian studies, you would find no clinical trials from India as such, but you would find a lot of real world evidence in the sense that once these tools are coming to the market, what has been the feedback and what has been the data collected from these patients that has been published in a lot of international journals. I can send you the links. If you can just you can really just Google search Even on PubMed, if you can just Google search Indian DTX solutions, I think you'll find a lot of them. Fitterfly, I know, which was my earlier company, which we have produced a lot of studies across the world. Wealthy has produced a lot of studies. Healthify would have a good number of studies. Ultrahuman is another great product from India, which has been used as a device for many of these DTX solutions. So yes, you would have quite many of these studies published. And if you actually go into clinical trials, companies like Click, which I mentioned, and Omada has actually gone through clinical trials and got their FDA approval. So you would find studies even in those.
Okay. And there is a question that if someone wants to jump on the bandwagon and start using this digital therapeutics, uh, how one should be starting? Is there any reliable third-party platform which connects various devices to one place, or for an individual doctor at a small hospital, how they can embark upon this journey?
Okay. So I've been in this DTX market for a long time. What I have noticed is when I go into the market, most of these doctors have already started some way of using DTX in their practices. So
Okay.
many of them already have a basic framework out there. They're not doing it in a very, very structured format. The data collection is not very clean, and so they're not able to propagate that service of theirs.
Yes.
So what I would suggest is many of the doctors can, at least the doctors who practice singly as single doctor clinics, can start off with using their own. It might not be very easy to build those softwares, but you could start off on a much smaller scale before you go onto a platform and use it for all your patients. You can try it out with a few patients and see how they interact with your solution. So that would be a first thing I would say. Second thing I would say is your practice actually DTX ready? Depending on what kind of clientele you have. So we have seen that the clientele in the below the 50, 55 age group who are very handy with their smartphones and who can understand technology and interact with it would be a much better fit for these kind of treatments. So what I've seen is the penetration of DTX is much higher in tier one and metro cities as compared to tier two and tier three, simply because the clientele over there is much more receptive to DTX solutions. So that is another. Third thing is once you understand that your patients will accept the solution you give them because they are very handy with their smartphones and they are actually asking for it. Usually, many doctors they shift to DTX because their patients ask for it rather than because they want to give it. So once you know that your patients are asking for it, then I would suggest and then you use your own homegrown solutions and see that there is a market fit where patients are going to accept this solution, then you can start going out looking for platforms. There are platforms available for almost all disorders right now. It might take a bit of research initially. There are a few larger companies, like I mentioned, Wealthy Therapeutics and Butterfly. I'm working with other companies right now. There's one from Ahmedabad called MicroHeal, working in functional gut disorders, where they're working with doctors in Ahmedabad to create a DTX solution for patients with chronic gut disorders, functional gut disorders. They are working with
Yeah.
people with chronic low back pain. There are companies who are creating solutions from India, based in India, using Indian sensors for low back pain. So there are many smaller companies which are coming up now. What I suggest is of these many of these doctors right now who understand the medical importance of it, I suggest they should actually be investing in these smaller companies and guiding them out. What
True.
many of these companies have is the technology solution, but they don't have the medical
True.
expertise for that. So I suggest many senior doctors out there, please help out these companies. There are a lot of them coming out from India and they're building solutions for the world. Please get in on the lower rung and help them out.
See, that is my next question that was I received. That it looks like that the healthcare is now going in the hands of engineers from the doctors. So, because the software engineers make these solutions, whether this data is validated or whether they are aptly experienced in making such solutions and all, and then when they come out with the solution in the market, they are with the influence of social media, with the big bang they come with release this and that. So how to differentiate among them?
Yeah. So I realize that this hesitation is there that most of these solutions are being pushed on to us by software engineers, and that is one of the reasons why I asked doctors to get involved with these technologies and actually
True.
help guide how these technologies come out and are getting used in healthcare today. Dr. Pranesh, we were talking about this just a few hours back, where we were hoping to get more and more doctors involved in getting to help engineers build this technology for the doctors and for the patients, and not just simply for engineers.
Right, right.
So I believe doctors need to get more involved, and once you do come down on a platform or a kind of solution that you want to use, please ask them for the studies they've published.
Right.
Almost every company worth its salt practicing DTX solution today would have published international studies. Go through the studies, go through their data, and then you'll have to choose for yourself. You need to try it out and see what works for you, for your practice. But please go through the published data that they have.
One difficult question. What about legal issues arising out of this advices come through digital therapeutics, where bots or something software might have advised something and something gone wrong?
Yeah, so this is still a very, very gray area. I understand that. I believe that the final say in any solution should always be a doctor. I believe that having solutions which automatically provide advice without the intervention of a medical specialist while giving their advice is completely wrong and unethical right now. There is no approval of any of such devices or any of such solutions in India right now. Using any such solution which provides medical advice without the say of a doctor is totally illegal. So that's all I can say right now.
So you have to keep finger crossed and inform the patient that this is just a guidance, and for final say, need to speak to your doctor. Something like that.
Something like that. Also, what solutions do right now is they do not really get into the medical part of it. So if you look at most solutions
True.
based around a clinical nutritionist, a
Lifestyle
psychiatrist,
modification mostly. Yes.
right? And what they do is when there is a so what like what we did at Fitterfly, when the counselors or these nutritionists found that the usual issue was, okay, the blood sugar has come down by using this DTX solutions, but the insulin or the OHA is still very high, which is causing hypoglycemia. So that is when we used to always trigger an alert to the doctor or
True.
call him, talk to him and tell him, sir, ye issue hai, please bring down the medication dose. And that is
True.
how it worked. There was a strict instruction, never ever was a counselor or paramedical who was giving advice via DTX would ever correct these medication levels. So they usually keep out of it.
So means both are working complementary to each other.
Complementary to each other, totally complementary. So DTX by definition, there are two ways it can be used. It can be used either singly, and there where I've seen DTX being used singly as a solution is usually been in early diabetes, where you have your HbA1c around 7.5. You still think you can reverse it, and you don't want to start medication. That's where I've seen a lot of DTX use. Those first time diagnosed people with borderline or slightly above borderline HbA1c. So that is where I've seen DTX used singly. Otherwise, 80% and plus 90% of the times I've used DTX has always been complementary to a medication or after a surgery and medication.
Right. And one more question on what about the data? Because in India, we do not have structured data which can be used for this studies on maybe this validating the devices or the solutions that comes to the market. What is your observation?
Uh, yes, data is a scarce commodity. And especially for these new companies who have come up with new solutions, for them to collect data would take years. So the way I would say it is, if the device is not one of those Chinese models and they actually buy a FDA approved device, obviously I can trust that data much more.
Okay.
The platforms which they use to provide this DTEX solution have to be much more robust to be able to collect and analyze all this data. Still in our, at least the companies in India that I've seen are still in their early days. But like at Fitterfly, we already had an AI team where once we collected data of around tens of thousands of patients, we had an AI team which would clean up all this data and put it up in a data warehouse where it could be used by our AI agents to analyze it. So we
Right.
actually had a data cleanup team over there, which cleaned up all this data, put it properly, and then it was used by the AI agents. So yes, these are the kind of factors that you have to work
True.
through and take care of. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Neelesh. That finishes the question list that I've received. Thank you for throwing light and sensitizing the healthcare professionals about the important thing that is coming for the future. Again, not future, it is already here, but it can be in future in a more structured way, and where more and more healthcare professionals get engaged with this. And as you rightly pointed out in the presentation, as of now, the focus is on the management of lifestyle diseases, and that's what the epidemic we are seeing today. So in lifestyle diseases, a lot of handholding is required, and a human, they may be not there physically, or if the doctors at all are there, they may have some want of time where they can give particular more amount of time to the patients, and that's where this digital therapeutics comes into play in a bigger way. Thank you, Dr. Neelesh, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Keep connected with us. Your comments and feedbacks and suggestions are always welcome. And this video will be there on the platform which we are live right now. So even if your colleagues or friends who have missed, you can ask them. They can just log in and see this video at any point of time. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Goodbye. Thank you, Dr. Nilesh.
Thank you, sir.